Greetings and welcome to LA Quill. Today we're diving into part 2 of chapter 21 of Arianna's tale. Damuk closed the door behind him carefully. He had spent the last couple candle marks having Arianna tell him exactly what had happened between bouts of hysteria. Now she was finally asleep, and he knew more than he wanted to. He was still seething with anger. His father was waiting for him, and he didn't look happy. I know you're angry with Ikon, son, but to have your own cousin arrested. He would have raped her. I'm sure of it. Damuk poured himself some wine. I will see him charged with treason. Rakan sighed. If she hadn't been wearing your ring, you would have nothing to charge him with. The worst he would have been guilty of would be dallying with a slave girl. At most, you could have challenged him to a duel. Damuk smiled cruelly. If she hadn't been wearing my ring, I probably would have killed him right there in the courtyard. He downed the wine in one swallow, then put down the glass before he drank more. He never got drunk, and he wasn't about to let his cousin drive him to drink. Rakan would have said more, but at that moment there was a knock on the door, and Commander Myron entered. He bowed to the Emperor and saluted the prince. What is it, Myron? Damuk snapped, irritated. Sire, Prince Ikon has escaped, was the reply. Both the Emperor and his son stared. How? Rakan asked. Myron faced the Emperor. We're not sure, Your Eminence. He was in his cell, and then he wasn't, as if he had just vanished. Damuk looked at his father. He could not have created a portal. He's not that powerful a mage. Rakan shook his head. No, but my sister is, and she would not hesitate to save her son. He looked at Myron. Thank you, Commander. Knowing a dismissal when he heard it, Myron quit the room. Now what? Damuk asked, wishing now that he had killed Ikon. Rakan rose from his seat. As much as I disapprove of this, you are within your rights to have him tried with treason. Send the guard, find him, and have Sybil taken into custody as well. He sighed. Sometimes a family is more trouble than it's worth. Damuk laughed humorlessly. Arianna was floating. It was like being air, but far more than that. She was looking down at herself, asleep where Damuk had left her. Just as she realized she was dreaming, she was whisked away. Her ethereal form skimmed across the desert, north from Crown City and slightly west. Days passed as she did so, the sun rising and setting. She came to the mountains of Malara and finally to the place she knew just had to be the gully. There was nothing but ice cut by raging rivers. Most of these rivers had sheer ice rising 100 feet tall as riverbanks. It matched the description of the gully given to her by Damuk and his father the night before. She saw her brother suddenly and was elated. He was so close. Everything moved faster than normal. She saw him and Tarius, her old friends, scaling ice and snow. Suddenly the vision changed. They were attempting to cross one of the rivers, rougher than all the rest. It was the final river. If they made it across, they'd be in the Empire. She could hardly contain her excitement, knowing he was only days away from her now. She watched them struggle out into the water. They had a rope stretched between them, tied to their waists, Tarius remaining on the shore while Darian crossed first. This way, if one slipped, the other could save him. At least, that was the general theory. Arianna could only watch and wait to see if it worked. Darian had made it just a little more than halfway across, avoiding the larger waves so that he wouldn't be swept downriver. He walked along a deposit of rocks so he was only up to his chest in water. To either side, the water would come easily above his head. It looked like he was going to make it. Then Darian was hit by a powerful wave and lost his footing. He slipped off the rocks. Tarius tried to brace himself, tried to pull him back, but the water was just too rough. He too was swept into the raging waters. If she could have, Arianna would have cried out, reaching out for them. But she couldn't. All she could do Sibyl's watch. And then they were gone. Arianna bolted upright. The sun was still up, and she knew the dream hadn't taken nearly as long as it had seemed, probably only moments. It had been a long time since she'd had a prophetic dream, but she recognized the sensation immediately. It was really the feeling of being made of air that defined it. She never dreamt like that unless it was a vision of things to come. She dashed the tears from her eyes. Crying wasn't going to save her brother. Her vision showed him dying, and it would happen. Her visions were always accurate, frighteningly so. She was, however, only shown a vision if there was something she could do to stop it. Arianna felt a sense of urgency and knew instinctively that there was no time to waste. She considered going to Damuk, telling him what she'd seen. But no, it would serve no purpose. She hadn't told him about the visions, mostly because she'd forgotten about them. And if she told him, they'd spend candle marks arguing about it, and she still wasn't sure he'd believe her. Better not give him the chance to argue with her at all. As my mother used to say, she thought to herself, better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. She almost giggled at that, despite the seriousness of the situation. Rising from the bed, she dressed quickly. Arianna chose one of the riding outfits and took a cloak with her. It was too warm to wear the cloak now, but she would need it when night fell. She knew that luck would be with her. It always was when one of these visions came upon her. She always managed to accomplish her goal, no matter the obstacles. It would be the same today. Still, no sense in taking unnecessary chances. It was only noon. If she could get outside the city now, she might not be noticed until evening. And by then, it should be too dark to hunt for her. She would not take additional clothing, and she would only take the food that had been left for her meal. That way there would be nothing in the room to indicate that she had done anything other than go for a short ride. Water was another matter. She'd need water if she was going to travel through the desert in the heat of the day. On their way to Crown City, Damuk had forced her to drink a skin of water every 2 candle marks as long as the sun was heating the sand. Arianna assumed that was what she'd need to make it through the desert alive. Luckily for her, Damuk kept dozens of water skins in a trunk with his travel gear. She could fill them in the gardens. She made her way to the stables, stopping briefly at her small still room to get some of the herbs and mixtures she'd been working on. She knew she would need them. She also made sure to fill her water skins and stow them in the saddlebag she'd also stolen. Once she had tied the bags in place, she was as ready as she was going to get. Once mounted, she rode straight for the gate, head high. News had spread that she was now Prince Damuk's betrothed, and she was betting the guards wouldn't stop her. She was right. Whether it was because they didn't know what to do or because of the luck that had always seemed to follow her after a vision, she wasn't sure. And at the moment, she didn't really care. Within moments, she was riding down into the city. Damuk was exhausted, physically, mentally, and magically. Not only had Ikon disappeared, but Sybil was missing as well. He had sent patrols out to find them until it had occurred to him that Sybil had used a portal to get Ikon and then take them both away from the city. Magic was the only way both of them could have escaped unseen. And with Sybil's power, they could be anywhere. He had immediately gone to Sybil's chambers. If she had used a portal there had to be some sign, even the smallest trace of energy. That trace may give him a hint as to where they might have gone. He was determined to find them. Sybil he could dismiss. She was only acting to protect her son, after all. But Ikon was dead as soon as they caught him. It was the only way to ensure his cousin posed no further threat to his betrothed. Damuk had indeed found traces of energy from a portal. More than just traces. To his spirit's sight, the room had positively glowed with energy. He had spent the majority of the day examining these traces, following them as far as he could. He had come to the determination that she had created a portal to bring Ikon to her chambers, and then another, stronger portal to take them both from the city. Unfortunately, the true destination of the final portal had remained a mystery. Sybil had somehow managed to cover her tracks, and to do so very well. Now, a candle mark past sunset, he finally entered his rooms. Faline was waiting for him, "Where's Arianna?" he asked, removing his doublet. He was looking forward to spending a relaxing evening with her, forgetting everything but her scent. The midwife's face went white, and she hesitated, not knowing what to say. She had thought the girl had been with Prince Damuk all day. He stared at Faylene, waiting for an answer. And then suddenly he knew. Arianna was missing. She wasn't in the palace. She wasn't anywhere near. He didn't know how he knew that, but he did. His first thought was that she had been taken by Sybil, and Damuk felt his chest grow cold with terror. And that's our tale from L.A. Quill today. If you enjoyed this chapter, let me know your favorite moment in the comments. Until next time, may your stories always be magical.